Today I'm going to be answering some questions I got from Twitter, like how to fix your arm from going numb with gaming, hitbox or flat base controller aiming, carpal tunnel syndrome questions, stretching, gyro ball, and I'm going to do that while you guys watch me play Valorant. Deathmatch at least. But we'll start with the first question, which is from Patty Cakes, who asked me, for years I've had issues with my left arm, going numb on longer sessions. PT has helped, but it never really solved it for me. Hold on. Never really solved it for me. I've tried a lot of different positions. It seems like games that require holding W for long periods of time bother it the most. So when we talk about numbness, there's actually three main areas of numbness that occur in the wrist and hand associated with gaming. It's in the first three fingers. I'll just kind of show you guys here. First three fingers here. We have the back side here, and then the pinky side of the wrist. And a lot of the times, it's associated with posture, especially when it's on pinky side of the wrist and hand. What we've seen the most is that when individuals have posture where their shoulders are kind of elevated, maybe even rounded, their shoulders are kind of tilted forward, it leads to some nerves around that area getting irritated, leading to some numbness. What's interesting for you in that, you've noticed that you've already gone to PT. Hard to say, what you've already done, but, maybe they focus on identifying exactly which nerve was causing the numbness, and it should be dependent on where you're feeling it. Again, those are the three major regions that you should be feeling it at, and if the PT will actually be able to identify exactly which nerve is involved and why. And so they should be able to look at things like your posture, your ergonomics, maybe even the contact point of your wrist and hand on your desk that might have led to the nerve getting irritated over a long period of time. With sort of the W leading to increased symptoms, I would say probably less likely that it comes from the shoulder, but it really just depends on how you're set up. And so that would be obviously one thing that we would want to look at. So, my recommendation would be, for you, starting at your shoulder, kind of modifying the position. Let me just change the camera back. Modifying the position to try to put your shoulder less like this, more like this. Sometimes when we have our shoulders up like this, we have less space for nerves to travel between our collarbone and our first rib. Sometimes even from muscles over here, you call our scalenes, leading to that nerve getting irritated. So looking into, some stretches like this, or your upper trap, or even a first rib mobilization can help. But maybe having a follow-up with your physical therapist can be helpful. And often it's about really identifying what's that underlying cause, and often it's a combination of posture and weakness. But sometimes we even notice numbness that's relating to just weakness of the muscles around the hand, and that leads to your some of the local nerves getting irritated because of some swelling. So I really want you to maybe try doing some regular exercises that will strengthen the wrist and hand. And this actually gets into the second, one of my other questions that I've received as well, which is, let me just kill these guys first, which is about what are the common stretches and exercises that I recommend or you guys should do. And as this person suggested, it's not just one, it's dependent on what muscles you utilize while you're gaming, right? And what grip you use and what setup you're doing, what setup you have. Those are all factors that affect, which muscles are being utilized. But generally, I would say, targeting your wrist flexors and extensors. Those are the ones that are responsible for gripping your mouse, picking up and moving your mouse left and right. Those will cover most of the muscles, right? And I have a video over here that you guys can check out that goes over some of the basic exercises, but helps you understand why. So I would definitely check that out. And then in terms of other questions, from Huawei, stretches before and after sessions tend to yield pain or discomfort. You follow the warm-up and do them in your day-to-day. Once the sensation wears off, there's discomfort. And so that often is associated with, if it is truly a tendon issue, tendons respond well to load and movement, but only at the right amount. So it's really important that you are consistently strengthening so that over time your tissues can handle more. It's normal to have some level of discomfort while you're doing exercises. Of course, everyone is a bit different, but I would say stretches will provide temporary relief. Loading exercises like isometric and the strength exercises and some of the videos that we have can provide that temporary relief as well, because it's minimizing or reducing some of the sensitivity. But it's after you build your health bar over time or your endurance over time, that's when you're going to notice that the discomfort is going to reduce in terms of when you're doing the exercises. So I would say you kind of just have to stay consistent with the exercises so that you can so I would say stay consistent. It takes time to build up the tissue's capacity, and only then will you be able to make some good progress with some of that soreness. And just remember, it's normal to sometimes feel some of that soreness associated with it's normal to feel the pain or discomfort, as long as it's not past like a 3 to 4 out of 10, or whether there's sharpness involved. Okay, so we have another question. Any tips on rectangular controllers? This is by Trap Star Fox. This is one of my favorite questions that I always get, and it's the difference between using like a GameCube controller and then a hitbox, right? And a hitbox is more flat, which means that and in some of the pictures that he included, there's like a lot more buttons, right? And what I want most people to realize is that these types of controllers just distribute the stress somewhere else, and often the times it makes it easier for your fingers and muscles to press the certain buttons, which does reduce the stress. It does reduce the stress per action. So they can be helpful, but I would say the stress will still go somewhere. So the underlying issue and the thing that we have to solve for is the endurance, right? How much your tissues or your muscles can handle without being irritated or dealing with some discomfort, right? So tissue endurance is by far the most important thing to address, and is one of the leading issues associated with pain or the development of injuries. So the question is, right, with more buttons, movements distributed, as you've already pointed out, movement is distributed, and so is the activity of the muscles for your wrist and hand. And so depending on, right, like the movement required of certain characters, you will have to press certain muscles or use certain muscles very regularly. Like for example, like let's say you use your thumb a lot, then you're probably going to have to strengthen those muscles to ensure that you can deal with the repeated presses of the thumb buttons over time. And I really want to compare this or relate this to using like a vertical mouse versus a regular horizontal or pronated mouse, because ultimately the stress is going to go somewhere. And when you're using a vertical mouse, sometimes you can use the thumb side of your wrist a little bit more, right? Instead of the top side of your wrist. And ultimately, again, depending on how you move and depending on what you do in the respective game that you play, you're going to utilize certain muscles, and you just need the endurance to handle that, right? So the bottom line, I would say, is you should be doing the exercises that target the muscles that you're using repeatedly. And when you're using a hitbox, you want to make sure that you're strengthening a lot of the muscles, the flexors, and also depending on how you set up, if you have your wrist really extended, you are gonna also be using the top side. So again, generally it's beneficial to work on both. And then definitely if you're using your thumb a lot, you want to strengthen the thumb. And that actually is relevant to another question I get from Seb, which is that, hey, it's about your thumbs. Sometimes you like to play PS1 games, and the problem is that games require you, like the directional buttons, round, triangle, cross, and square after 20 minutes. Okay, so again, like I always talk about the concept of a health bar, and I would say you just don't have enough health represented by your endurance to handle the repeated amount of the 20 minutes of gaming or repeated thumb activity that that your thumbs utilize, and that's causing your thumbs to become sore or causing them to become irritated or painful. Oh yeah. So ultimately it's about doing thumb exercises, whether it be, regular thumb circles and or thumb extensions, or even tennis ball squeezes focusing on the thumb. Those are the exercises that you're going to be regularly doing to build up the endurance of the muscles you regularly utilize. Ensure that you'll play more, and you'll notice that as you do these regularly, you'll be able to play longer. And so really make sure that you do those over time, and you'll notice that increase in progress. Another question I got was, is surgery always a necessity? I won't answer this because this can be a really, really long response. I'll just instead directly to a video that we made. You can check it out right over here. I'm just gonna link it over here. But we talk about all the reasons why it's most commonly not carpal tunnel syndrome, why you probably don't need surgery because instead it's a tendon-related issue. And so, rest and splinting, it doesn't address the underlying issue, which is weakness. And so you have to just address the weakness of the tendons by doing these regular exercises. I think that's pretty much it. And yeah, I'm going to be doing these a bit more often. If you guys have any more questions, please drop them, send it to me on Twitter, and then I'll make a video like this playing whatever game that you guys want me to play. And obviously not doing well and not winning, but please check out some of my other videos or my playlist of routines, because that can target a lot of these common areas where there's weakness.